Before we turn things over to the panel for your final questions, we'd like to thank everyone for coming out and listening to us today. We hope that the stories we've told have increased your understanding of the livability principles and inspired you in new ways to implement them both here in Louisville and across the country.
Now, we only have a few minutes here before we're going to close things up, and so I'd like to use possibly these final questions that are on our board to allow each agency to take a moment and just wrap up and say anything else that you'd like to about sustainable communities. We're talking about coordinating efforts at all levels to promote sustainable communities here, and how your agencies and which agency is the question, but really the point is you're all working toward making your neighborhoods more healthy, safe, walkable communities. So if we could just take a moment and just use those to wrap up from each agency. Anyone would like to start? Regina?
I think Lee mentioned this morning that EPA has already begun the work of designating a sustainable contact in each of their regional offices, if I'm not mistaken. HUD is also doing the same thing. For all of our 64 regional and field offices, we are identifying, I guess, what will be called a sustainability officer in each region to help move the agenda forward, and then hopefully those officers would then be working with other local transit authorities or regional transit authorities and regional EPA offices to help push this agenda forward. But we do need you guys' help in participation. Inform us what we could be doing better. Let us know what we're doing right, how we can improve, and just stay on top of the public funding notices and participate in those, because that is very valuable feedback that we could use at the federal level. Thank you.
I would say, in terms of how do we coordinate efforts at all levels to promote sustainable communities, the topic I would probably offer to you most is to make sustainable community development legal and put it on the same equal playing field as suburban development. And by that I mean it is illegal right now in almost every community or most communities to create walkable places or mixed use or have a parking in the rear. The things, principles and practices of making sustainable communities cannot get done without variances or just a complete overhaul or redo of zoning codes. And the questions with the three answers that were before about walkability, small businesses or local businesses, I didn't think the three adequately addressed the proper answer because part of the problem with helping local communities is not treating them at the same standards as new suburban development. And by that I mean lot placement, water retention, parking ratios. These things don't actually get to making development happen at a robust way or an economical way. So I would say putting sustainable community development at a level playing field with suburban development is probably the best way to coordinate sustainable communities at all levels.
With regard to the Interagency Partnership for Sustainable Communities, many of you probably know that CDC is not an official partner of this partnership. How CDC is approaching this partnership is to offer itself kind of as a supporting agency, both at the federal level and also at the state and local level. At the federal level, we are positioning ourselves to offer our expertise and the evidence that we have in public health to support these efforts, because sustainable development, smart growth, things like this, really very much support positive public health outcomes, and is really necessary as far as CDC is concerned, in tackling some of our major public health issues such as obesity, lack of physical activity, improper nutrition, and other things like respiratory illnesses due to bad air quality, et cetera. On the state and local level, what CDC is doing is we're just looking to increase the capacity of public health professionals at the state and local level to respond to this kind of call for action. Because, you know, public health is an underfunded activity at the state and local level and at the federal level. And a lot of public health professionals don't necessarily have the background or the language necessarily to interact effectively with people such as land use planners, transportation planners, and other people like you in the audience who are advocates for this type of development. So CDC is working with our state and local partners to just kind of give them the tools so that they can engage effectively and offer the kind of support that public health can offer to support these types of activities.
I just wanted to make one other addition, and that is that while we can do what we can do as federal agency staff people and leaders, a lot of this has to do with all of you participating at the local level, and I think that's part of what Lee was alluding to and other folks. One example I have of that from that Smart Growth conference that many of us went to is I think it was in Kansas, and I can't remember if it was Kansas City or another city, but the YMCA became a great advocate because it has to do with children and their activity levels and their health. An advocate for complete streets, which is another element that various people have alluded to without maybe saying it, but where pedestrians and bicyclists and people walking on the sidewalks will be considered when those roadways and amenities are planned. And they became very successful. They got folks in their neighborhoods where their kids were coming from involved, and it became, it wasn't even so much a political action as it was a neighborhood connectedness component, and they really have brought their area along quite a bit in that regard. I know I may be speaking to the choir because many of you are the activists that we're talking about, but just as an example of encouragement, that's something that I see as really important to help us get where we all want to go, because we have certain capacities, but we don't have the energy that you all can generate from your areas.
And from the Federal Highways point of view, we have appointed a contact, or each of our offices have a designated point of contact, because we have an office in every state, and Jose being the DA and has a person that's the point of contact for livability, sustainability. We'll be happy to certainly work with you, and Bernadette DuPont back there is on his staff in assisting that effort. But also in the headquarters office in my staff, I've also have a point of contacts that are actually appointed to work and stay on top of the terms of livability, sustainability programs across the whole office, not only Office of Planning, but Office of Environment and Real Estate.